Today, we will be talking about celebrities who fought in the war, ASMR edition. To start off with our first celebrity, we have Jimmy Stewart. Now, Jimmy Stewart grew up in Indiana, Pennsylvania, where his father owned a hardware store. Jimmy's family had some background, with both of his grandparents being Civil War veterans and his father fighting in the Spanish-American War. From a young age, he wanted to pursue a career in the military, but his father shut those dreams down. He also had a passion for building and flying planes, so as he grew older, that passion for planes grew into adulthood, and he began to dream about wanting to attend the U.S. Naval Academy and eventually, hopefully, becoming a Navy pilot. Jim Stewart would go on to attend Princeton and later, after scavenging for jobs in the Great Depression, which we all know was a really hard time financially, he would end up going to work in Broadway and doing shows, which then got him noticed and spotted by Hollywood. He would later become a really successful movie star by 1941. But he still had that growing passion for wanting to join and serve in the Army. After his failed attempt to draft in the Army in October of 1940 because he was underweight, on March 22, 1941, the actor became a private in the U.S. Army Air Corps. During his time in the Army, he was appointed as a leader for many air missions, including an attack he led against Germany, which gained him much respect among colonels due to his great leadership skills. In February of 1945, he was promoted to a full-time colonel in the Army Air Corps. He was later awarded with two awards, Distinguished Plain Crosses Award and another one I cannot pronounce to save my life because it's in French, but it's okay. He continued his work in the army even after the war was over, and after some time he returned to film in the 1950s. Now we're going to go on to our next actor, big celebrity, Mr. Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley was inducted in the U.S. Army at the Memphis Draft on March 24, 1958. He began his basic training in Texas, where he would be later stationed for 6 months. For the next 18 months, he was then stationed at Friedberg, West Germany, later in October. He was assigned to the 1st Medium Tank Battalion, the 32nd Armored Regiment, and the 3rd Armored Division. He was mainly shipped as a military occupational specialist, which today would most likely refer to as a cavalry scout. His main job was to drive around the jeep, making sure that his captain and any other soldiers were able to get to wherever they needed to be. He was later transferred from his main position due to many fangirls that would swarm and mob him during his service time, because before he was drafted into the army, he was very, very, very popular, especially due to all of his large movie roles. With his transfer, he began working for Sergeant Aaron Jones in a news station. His schedule consisted of him waking up at 5:45 a.m. and reporting for duty at 7 a.m. Later, on January 20th, 1960, he was appointed as a sergeant. He would then later go on to earn his sergeant stripes on February 11th, a month later. He would then be later released from his duty in New Jersey on March 5th, less than a month after gaining his stripes. With all his work in the army, he was also introduced to amphetamines, which was a drug that was intended to help give energy and ensure people stayed awake. This drug resulted in him gaining an addiction, which then resulted in his early death in 1977 at the age of 42. Our next celebrity is Pat Sajak. Before he was known as the host of the Wheel of Fortune, he served in the military during the Vietnam War. Born in Chicago, Sajak began his start in broadcasting at Columbia College, Chicago. He later obtained a job at the WEDC, a local radio station, and the rest is, well, history. He avoided fighting in the front lines and mainly worked as a disc jockey on the Armed Forces radio. He originally worked as a finance clerk, but his desire for the media resulted in his multiple attempts to leave, which then resulted in him joining the Armed Forces radio. At 6 in the morning, he would greet nearly up to 500,000 troops in the American Forces Vietnam Network from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. After continuing his services as the radio host for those serving in the war, he would later be discharged from the Army and would go on from being a weatherman at the WSM TV Nashville to becoming an ongoing host of Wheel of Fortune. After his serving time in the war, Sajak often continued to feel guilty about one mishap that did happen, which was President Nixon's 1969 speech. President Nixon gave a speech about the Vietnam War, talking and motivating all of the soldiers who were fighting in it. However, during the speech, Nixon had paused for quite a bit, and Sajak assumed that the pause from Nixon was concluding his speech. He told the soldiers that Nixon had finished his speech, and he continued to play music for the soldiers to listen to for the rest of the day. Sajak continued to listen to the CBS feed, only to hear and realize that the president was still talking and in fact had a speech for all the soldiers who were fighting in the army. Rather than admitting that he had accidentally cut off the president, he did not continue Nixon's speech, and the Vietnam soldiers never heard what Nixon had to say for them. Last but certainly not least, our final celebrity that we have today is Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman was born in 1935 and began his acting career in high school plays. Rather than accepting a scholarship at Jackson State University, he enlisted in the Air Force. He was inspired by his love of war films and airplanes at a very young age, and so then he decided that he wanted to serve in the military. He trained to be an automatic traffic radar repairman, which consisted of him measuring locations of aircraft or missiles by aligning radar antennas in the air. During his time in the Air Force, he realized that the Army was just not for him, and after 4 years of service, he was discharged in 1959. He would later go on to pursue an acting career, moving to Los Angeles, California. Recently, in 2023, he would go on CBS to talk about the 761st Tank Battle Line, the original Black Panthers, the documentary which he helped executive produce and narrate. Like their roles or how many years they served in the war, it is important to recognize and honor these celebrities who fought hard to protect our country. New mic because the other one died on us. Okay, let's take the tape off. Hopefully that doesn't destroy your ears. Now to begin with the craziness that is celebrities in the war. So, Babylon. Sajdak. Sajdak. Born in such. Cut that out. There's motorcycles outside right now. I'm also just trying to think right now.